So it's all yours, Jason.
All right. Thank you very much, Gary. I appreciate it. Everybody hear me okay? We good?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. So I wanted to, and everybody can see my slides, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name is Jason Elmore, as Gary has mentioned. I work for the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. I have a background in the fire service. I spent 27 years in the fire service, working for two different departments in the Central Virginia area. The majority of my career was spent with the Chesterfield County Fire and EMS Department. I was a lieutenant and paramedic with them, and then served for about 9 years as their public information officer and media spokesperson. Back in 2020, I decided right in the height of COVID, I don't know what made me think to do it then, but I was transferred over and got a job with the Virginia Department of Emergency Management as their Deputy Director of Strategic Communications. So what I do is I do media relations. I'm our spokesperson. I handle all of the disaster type social media. I oversee that part of what we do and getting that preparedness messaging out there, and things during natural and human-made disasters. So I do that. Also, personally, I'm a pastor of a United Methodist Church here in Chesterfield County, and so I've been doing that for about 17 years as well. So keeps me pretty busy in my life. So I want to. Today, I wanted to really share with you about the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, first and foremost, because I think we're a pretty important agency. We're small but mighty, and but we do a lot of things that I think people aren't really aware of, and especially when we talk about what emergency management is, what first responders do, fire and EMS and police, and the variety of things that happen. So that's what I kind of want to do today. And throughout our presentation, I got a few just like little trivia questions that are kind of put in there. So I'll ask you if you want to put in the chat when the questions pop up. Just put A, B, C, or D, or whatever you think the answer is. So we'll kind of go from there. All right. Let's see. What slide is doing here. Are my slides moving? They're not moving.
Nope.
Okay. Maybe I will do it this. There we
There
go.
we go.
All right. So first trivia question. Who is the current director of emergency management? Is it the Governor Glenn Youngkin? Is it the VDEM State Coordinator John Scrivani? Or is it Marcus Anderson, who is the Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security? Who do we think?
We got one B, another B, a C, a B.
Got a few no A's being thrown in there. And so for those of you that didn't put A, that would have been the correct answer. Per our state code, the governor is actually listed as the director of emergency management. And what the governor does each time that a governor is elected, they continue the role as director. However, they put in and appoint someone to be a state coordinator of emergency management. And so John Scrivani oversees our agency, but ultimately the decisions come from the governor. So little trick question there, but that is how the state code operates. So let's talk a little bit about us here at emergency management. And so VDEM, what we do is we really are kind of a liaison, a coordinating agency. We work with local governments, We work with other state and federal agencies, nonprofits, private sectors, and all to really work through our 5 mission areas, which is prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery. And so within those things, we do preparedness activities. We're sharing messages all of the time about how people can stay prepared, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. We do have some protection response as well. Mitigation is one that I think people don't realize that we do, but mitigation is something that we do. In conjunction with our federal and local partners. And I'll just give you an example of this. We have some communities that are in the Hampton Roads area, to where when storms come through and they have high tidal surges of water, that a lot of properties were getting flooded and homes were being damaged. And so we work with FEMA, other federal groups, and the local governments to provide funding and grant money to be able to homes that are in these areas to be able to lift them and raise them up. So there have been numerous projects in that area to where we've been able to take homes and basically put them like up on stilts so that if we know that area is going to flood again, that the home will not be damaged in response to that. So that's something that mitigation does. We also have a limited role in response, and I'll explain that a little bit more in a couple slides later. And then we also help in the recovery process. Always, our website, vaemergency.gov, we'll have all kinds of information on there as well. Oh, I think, oh yeah. All right. So our statutory authority. So this is what was put into state code back in the early 1970s to create an agency that was to what was to become Virginia Department of Emergency Management. In the beginning, it was called the Virginia Department of Emergency Services, and it was tasked with protecting the Commonwealth from natural and human-made disasters. So, you know, you're oh, you know what all of your natural disasters are. Human-made disasters are going to be things that will impact maybe a large mass shooting, cyber attacks, those types of things that are going to impact things that are done on a level from someone being nefarious in that process. Again, we talked about we work with all these different types of agencies to provide resources during, before, during, and after an emergency in the process. We talked about how the governor is Virginia's chief disaster officer, and they delegate that authority to the state coordinator. And then all state agencies and resources are subject to be called in to respond to disaster situations. So we had an executive order several years ago that was put out by the governor, and it was Governor Ralph Northam at the time, that basically would allow the Virginia Department of Emergency Management to train, educate other state agency partners, maybe ones that aren't directly involved with disaster. We know that agencies like the Virginia State Police, Virginia Department of Transportation, or Virginia National Guard, all of those are going to be involved in disaster response. But other state agencies that may not have a direct role in it, that we could train those individuals to be able to bring them in during a disaster declaration or a state of emergency, to be able to get them to help us in that realm. So that is one of the things that we utilize regularly, and we have what we call a Virginia Emergency Support Team, or the VEST, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's comprised of several state agencies coming together to put together a responding, coordinating response to a disaster. All right, so we have another trivia question. What do you think Virginia's #1 hazard is? Hurricanes, tornadoes, wind, flooding, or winter storms?
Uh, got a C,
Okay, we got
C or
wind.
C or D, wind or flooding. C, D. So those seem to be the big winners.
Yeah, those seem to be the big winner. Well, one of those is correct. Flooding is our number one hazard that we have in Virginia. And one of the things that people don't realize is that um, we tend to think of flooding in our coastal regions or along those major rivers that come in from the bay and such, and we do have flooding in those areas, but we also have a significant amount of flooding concern in the Southwest Virginia and in some areas of Northern Virginia as well. Uh, this isn't always; these are could be very much flash flooding type incidents. You probably know areas around Arlington that, if it rains really hard in a short amount of time, that the roadways are going to be flooded and those types of things. All of those can impact. Your community, travel, those types of things. Our most significant flooding that we've had of recent is Hurricane Helene that came through last September and really impacted our Southwest Virginia area. We had numerous, rescues during that time. A lot of damage became a federal disaster declaration, and we're still in the process of working with the communities out there and FEMA and things, getting areas out there rebuilt. So while flooding is the number one hazard that we have in Virginia, we are impacted by all hazards. We do have snow, we have, human made disasters, hurricanes, floods, wildfires. Today, actually, we were on a meeting this morning. Today is what they call a red flag day for the Commonwealth, which means it's a high likelihood of wildfires. Our Department of Forestry is currently working on a few smaller ones in the mountainous areas of Virginia. However, today is a red flag day, which means that we're going to have some winds. We're also going to have low humidity. Things are dry out there, so this is a day that they are encouraging people not to do any kind of open burning and things. But we are what we call a all hazards organization. So we deal with basically anything that is going to disrupt our infrastructure, our government support, and what the government is providing to our residents in Virginia, and anything that is going to be a help to first responders. So that is what we consider to be an all hazard organization. So here's just a few pieces of what BDEM does, some of the things. We have some hazardous materials, those types of things. We have hazmat personnel stationed throughout the Commonwealth in various regions to be able to help out, local governments. Now, and I like to describe this as, I worked for Chesterfield Fire Department for 20 years. We had a hazardous materials team that were specifically trained, all of that. So when something hazmat related occurred in Chesterfield, our hazmat team was able to take care of it. Now, we have localities around the Commonwealth that don't have that luxury. They may be smaller localities out in Southwest Virginia or Southern Virginia, and even in the Shenandoah area that may be volunteer organizations. They don't have a hazmat person or team. And so if they have a hazmat incident, they are going to require a team to come from elsewhere, or they reach out to VDEM and we send our hazmat officer to the scene, assess the situation, find out, is this something that can be taken care of at a small level, or are we going to need to call in a full hazmat team to do it? So we have hazmat. We also have search and rescue, as well as swift water rescue teams that are able to help out in those communities that don't have those luxuries and resources. So, and as you can see, we work with our power companies. There are a few things of our emergency operations center there. Some photos just kind of showing you a little bit about what we can do. So, what are some of the things to do to become more prepared for disasters? Now, that's kind of a rhetorical question because I jumped right into doing some of those things. So, before a disaster, I'll kind of tell you what we do, and then I can kind of share what you can do as residents. But what we do before a disaster, which we like to call blue sky day. So we during a blue sky day, which means nothing bad is going on, nothing, no disasters are occurring, all of that kind of stuff. We're doing what we call planning. We develop plans to help manage disasters. So what are we going to need to do if a category 3, 4 hurricane is going to be coming into Virginia, whether that's along um, the coast or whether it's going to be coming up from the Gulf and going to impact us in different areas. We have plans for these types of things. We have what we call the COVOP, which is the acronym for the Commonwealth of Virginia Emergency Operations Plan. Now, within that, they have different appendixes or what we call annexes to impact either hurricanes or maybe it's an earthquake or maybe it's a cyber attack. All of these types of things, plans that we do, and we do that as the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. And we write these in conjunction with other state agencies, local support, and all of that, so that when these disasters happen, that we have a plan in place. And planning is important to that, to the state response to these disasters. We also provide planning support to our localities. The local governments are required to have a emergency operations plan for their locality, and we provide that planning support. We have what we call subject matter experts here on that type of thing, and we provide that support to our localities. We also do training and exercises to support the local governments and other state agencies. So we have a training and education division that is out there in the community helping local governments do these. They could be tabletop exercises, they could be full scale exercises you may have seen on the news or things like that, where maybe a local government in your area is doing a full scale exercise on an active shooter or a full scale exercise on sheltering operations if that's needed in the community. And Virginia Department of Emergency Management, while we're not the ones that are doing the response and all that, we come out to support. We will bring people, we'll bring evaluators and things like that to be able to make sure that your plan is working in your community. Part of what my job is keeping the public informed of all of these efforts that they could do to help reduce the impact of disasters. So we utilize social media a lot of times. We utilize traditional media. We go out to community events. We do things like this, presenting to community events. I was at a church group on Monday presenting about preparedness and things like that. And so that's what we do on our communications team as we get out there and try to share the ways for you to stay safe. And then one of the biggest things that I think we do is we manage grants and other funds that are necessary to support emergency management across the Commonwealth. So a lot of times the federal government will provide these types of grants. There'll be preparedness grants to local governments. There'll be mitigation grants, recovery grants, and things like that. They send them to us, and we're kind of the ones that manage that opportunity. Make sure that the local governments are have all the documentation that they need, that they're following the process like they are supposed to, that they're utilizing the funds like they're supposed to be good stewards of the taxpayer money. So that is a big piece that we do. Now, for you as individuals and homeowners and things like that, before a disaster, we encourage people to do three things. have an emergency plan, and an emergency plan consists of uh, knowing what you're going to do in the event of a variety of emergencies: tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, all of those kinds of things. Let people that you know, your family members, your friends, and things like that, that if you have to leave during an emergency, evacuate because of flooding or anything like that, let people know where you're going, so that they're not calling and saying, "Hey, my neighbor is missing, my mother is missing, or whatever. I don't know where she is," when you've actually just gone to your best friend's house that's in a safer area, something like that. We also encourage people not only to make that emergency plan, but to have an emergency kit. An emergency kit is things that you consist of: bottled water, non-perishable foods, first aid kit, have your medicines readily available, important documents that you need, insurance, health insurance cards, all of those types of things. Have that stuff ready, so that if you need to pick it up and go immediately, or you need to kind of hunker down and shelter in place, stay at home during an emergency, that you'll have all the necessary things that you need to do. And then the last piece of this is to be able to have ways to stay informed. That can be a variety of ways. I'm sure that Arlington has an alerting system that you can sign up for through their website, that you can go on and they will notify you via text message, phone call, or email of things that are happening in your area, especially during an emergency. If you have a mobile phone, a cell phone, most of those come automatic with your like big alerts, like your National Weather Service alerts, your Amber alerts, and things like that. Um, know that if you are on social media, Facebook or Nextdoor, or any of those types of things, make sure that you are uh, staying focused on those reputable resources, your Virginia Department of Emergency Management, your local government, and all of that, to make sure that you have the right information during a disaster. So those are all the things that we do and that you can do before a disaster. So during a disaster, this is what we do as the as Virginia Department of Emergency Management. We work with local governments to make sure that they can restore or provide essential and vital resources, which are these things that are listed here. Whether it's providing water, providing power. We work closely with our private sector partners, our Dominion Energies, our electrical cooperatives that are throughout the Commonwealth. We provide communications. So if we have to, our first responders, they are hit and don't have their normal radio systems and things like that they can utilize because things have been damaged, we can provide that to those local first responders to be able to continue to do that. We work with Virginia Department of Transportation to make sure that we can get the roadways back open, clear of any debris, and make sure that the roads are safe for people. The Department of Social Services we work closely with. They are our sheltering agency, providing and helping local governments provide shelter as well as medical care. And so during a disaster, for you as individuals, the biggest thing that we encourage you to do is to make sure that you keep up with what is going on in the community. Know the ways that your local government or the governor or the Virginia Department of Emergency Management is going to provide updates on these essential, vital services that are needed in the midst of a disaster. Those are the things that you can do. And then we talked a little bit about this. Um, we work closely with our National Guard to be able to help out when there is a state of emergency declared by the governor. That opens up the National Guard to be able to be used as a resource, and they can do numerous things. You think of them a lot of times as a military resource. However, they provide, they could go out take bottled water to communities. They are trained in being able to remove debris. They have chainsaw crews that can help the Department of Transportation get roadways open, those types of things. And they're a lot of young, able bodied individuals that can get out there and do those types of things. Our local governments provide assessments into our emergency operations center that include things like our situation reports, like what's going on in the community. We're here in the Richmond area. What's the damage look like out there? And that provides us with the information to get to the governor to be able to make decisions on where we're sending resources. Um, we work closely with the governor to determine if that state of emergency is needed, and we need to declare one. You know, what's the potential impact it's going to be. We put together the executive order for that, and the governor declares that a state of emergency. Once that happens, that does open it up to being able to request that federal assistance as well. And getting that information through the governor to our federal partners to see if we're going to get a disaster declaration from the president. And then after a disaster, this is a piece that a lot of times people, see in a disaster, once things start to get cleaned up and roadways open, that the incident is over. And what happens is that's not actually the case. The recovery process is very complex, and especially in receiving those federal funds to be able to help out individuals and communities. So the recovery process includes, as you can see here, rebuilding of homes and properties, making sure that businesses are able to start coming back, people can get back to work, and permanently repairing and rebuilding infrastructure. And we're talking about public roadways, we're talking about power grids, all of those kinds of things that are important parts of this. And one of the things is that we have to look at it is we have some short-term goals here, but we also have longer-term goals, which is helping these communities rebuild, but don't rebuild in the same way that if this happens again, then we're going to kind of start over from square one. So we try to reduce that future vulnerability, and that's a big part of the mitigation process. And what people I don't think realize is that the recovery, this last bullet point here, can last years. It's very expensive, and it includes all levels of government, political leaders, businesses, and individuals. When I came to work here in 2020, they had some impacts from a prior hurricane that occurred in 2018, and it for them to close out that, and we call it closing out the disaster, to where there's no more funding, no more, everything has been done from a local, state, and federal level. It wasn't until about 2022 that incident had taken take a close. So we're seeing that Hurricane Helene, we're about a year and 2 months out from that, and we're still very involved in the recovery process for that as well. So that's some of the things that we do before, during, and after disaster. And now we have a trivia question. So in addition to traditional emergency management activities, what other programs is VDEM responsible for? A, hazardous materials. B, the state's 911 system. C, search and rescue. D, planning and off-site response for nuclear power stations. Or E, all of the above.
E, 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 E.
There we go. People are getting smarter, Gary. I like it. That is correct. We are responsible for those things. As I had mentioned earlier, the hazardous materials responses in those teams, the state 911 system, we have a group here out of our headquarters office that works closely with all of our, we call them public safety answering points, but for the layperson, that is going to be your 911 centers, dispatch centers, those places, search and rescue. And then we're very involved in our, we have two nuclear power stations in Virginia, one in Louisa County, which is North Anna, and then one that is in Surrey County, which is the Surrey Nuclear Power Station. And so we work closely with Dominion Energy as well as the federal government and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for plans for that. And we have to have yearly full scale exercises of what that if something happens there and there is some type of breach or leak or anything like that, we do full scale exercises every year that are evaluated by FEMA and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for that. All right, next slide. So what most people don't know about VDEM, okay? And I'll tell you, I'll be transparent. I worked in fire departments for 20 some years, and I was in Chesterfield County, which we were, as I mentioned, a resource heavy location. We had hazardous materials teams, we had scuba rescue, we had all of that kind of stuff right there. So a lot of times we didn't have to reach out for state assistance. And so these are some of the things that I didn't know that VDEM did as I was coming into the agency. As I mentioned already, that we're responsible for hazmat training and response to those hazardous material spills. We just talked about in that question about the two nuclear power stations. We coordinate the search and rescue operations, including a bunch of volunteers for that. We have several teams throughout. So, and I'm not sure Arlington may be one of them. We partner, we have memorandums of understanding with several localities, but within those teams that we have hundreds of volunteers that help out in that. And this is for those of you that aren't aware, but we help out with, so maybe you have a child that is lost with that has autism. You've seen things like that on the news, or an elderly person with dementia goes and gets lost, and the local governments are looking for them. These search and rescue teams come in. They know how to search on certain areas and terrain and that kind of stuff, and so that's what that is evolved in. We manage in cooperation with the Department of Fire Programs, technical and urban search and rescue teams. So this is going to be like building collapses and those types of things. We oversee our state emergency operations center and our Virginia emergency support team. And we'll talk about the emergency support team here in a moment. And then we coordinate sending Virginia resources and people to other states to help them with disasters. And we do that through what is called the Emergency Management Assistant Compact. And so we currently have several people from Virginia, emergency managers, people from our agency that are in Arizona, helping them with disasters out there. They are having some issues with fires, and then we have several people that are in Alaska right now. Alaska had I don't want to say it wasn't a major tsunami, but they had a tsunami that impacted parts of their state, and we have people out there assisting them. And then we manage our state situational awareness unit, and I have a slide coming up about what that is. All
Jason,
right.
you talked
Yes, sir.
about coordinating statewide and nationwide. What about international? We occasionally hear about search and rescue teams from, say, Fairfax County going overseas. How is that coordinated?
Yeah, so yes, that we do help out with that. Obviously, those are a little less frequent than the ones that occurring right here in the United States or in Virginia. But we do have two teams that are, that are trained up enough to be able to do that. One is in Fairfax. We also have one from the Hampton Roads area in Virginia Beach. And so, yes, we'll coordinate through that. And what happens is that comes through from the other nation to United States, and then sent out to the states that have those level teams that are on there. And so it just kind of comes down through, and then we assist with that through FEMA to get those resources sent to wherever they need to go. So that's a great question. All right, another trivia question. So all of those things we talked about that we do, how many employees do you think we have at the Virginia Department of Emergency Management? And you have your list there, 100 to 200, 200 to 300, and so
We got A, B. I think everybody remembers you said you're small but mighty.
on. Yeah. So yeah, I tipped it off there. I should have. It is actually B. So we have and that, if I would have given this presentation probably 2 years ago, it would have been A. But we just broke the 200 mark within the past year or so. And we're at about 215 employees now. So, and in a variety of roles, we have some that are here at our headquarters location, and then we have a variety of regions, which fits right well because that's our next slide. And so we have regional staff as well, and this is how the state is broken up into our regions, and we provide a single source of communication between our agency and those local governments that are in those regions. So, and so I believe, so if I do my geography right, y'all should probably be in Region 7 and Arlington, and which is we call our Northern Virginia region, even though Region 2 is kind of also part of that. And so, but this is how we are broken into our regions for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And each of those regions has a variety of staff, normally about 5 employees. Region 7 does have, because they have a couple of different projects and things that are unique to that region. They have about 7 employees in that region, and that works closely with all of those local governments that are under their care, and then is really that coordination of the state assets to be able to help out those local governments as needed. And then that is what that regional concept is all about, is about that coordination of our state resources, and it providing them that those local governments that they don't have to go through, you know, through the Richmond headquarters area. They can work closely with somebody, get familiar with somebody, have a good partnership and relationship with our regional staff. It helps to during emergencies, because we have the staff that are in those areas that can get to that local government quicker and find out exactly what they need, as opposed to us having to either call them or reach out to them through email or whatever. We can have somebody on scene pretty quickly in the event that a disaster or emergency is happening. And it allows us to fully leverage our grant funding and promote that sustainability, because we have people right there in the region, can work closely. We can find out what their needs are, not just during a disaster, but a lot of these grant funding things are preparedness items. And so we want to make sure that the local governments are as prepared as possible. And then, as I mentioned, we help the local governments identify and plan for those different kinds of threats and hazards that are unique to their region. And so that may be something that those local governments need. We talked about this a little bit, but these are some of our regional program or response programs. Is the technical rescue teams and all of that. Gary, as you mentioned, those FEMA urban search and rescue teams. Those are the ones that you see from like Fairfax and all that are trained at that level that can pretty much respond anywhere and to anything, and they have that level of expertise. We also have a very strong logistics piece. We have a large warehouse here in the Metro Richmond area that keeps lots of bottled water in the event of a disaster, and we need to get it out to the local governments across the Commonwealth. We also have sheltering packs that are here that we can send to help local governments set up shelters and our statewide shelters that we have. We have the statewide mutual aid. So if we need something from a state that is bordering us, and then we talked about the emergency management assistance compact, and then our logistics team is really that federal liaison that we have with the federal government and with our FEMA partners. And then our situational awareness unit. We have a 24-hour operation, and this is, if you think of it as local governments and local first responders have a 911 center. And so somebody calls 911, they answer, they send out first responders. This is at the state level, this is what our situational awareness unit is. So when local governments need emergency state resources, things like that, they contact our situational awareness unit. And for example, we have a state resource here in our area as well as in Southwest Virginia for EMS med flight, which is a trauma helicopter that has paramedics and nursing staff on it. And so if a local government needs that assistance for their first responder, they contact our state situational awareness unit, who then dispatches that state resource. But this is also where the local governments reach out for our special operations, hazmat, search and rescue, swift water rescue. They do that, and then we're able to do that, send those out to those local governments. This is also where you have your wireless emergency alerts. So if we have an incident in our Commonwealth to where we need to send out a wireless emergency alert through cell phones, or the emergency alert system that you hear on your car radio or across the it tickers and makes loud noise across the bottom of your TV. That's where this comes from as well in our situational awareness. And then we partner with our Virginia State Police partners and have the Virginia Fusion Center, which they are basically an information collection. They analyze and share information to prevent, whether it's domestic terrorism, cyber attack, those types of things. They're looking for, they are kind of like investigators, things like that, that are looking at social media. They're looking at, underground kind of stuff that is going on to find out if people are planning various human-made attacks, whether it's like physical or cyber or something like that. And a lot of this is classified information that comes out, and only certain people are able to get it. Those types of things. But in the event of that, we have this data analysis and intelligence from the Fusion Center. All right, another trivia question. So I mentioned our Virginia Emergency Support Team. Before we talk about it, I want to see if you understand what it could be. Who makes up this Virginia Emergency Support Team? Is it our VDEM employees? Is it state agencies? Is it governor's office, private sector, federal partner, volunteer agencies, or G, all of the above?
Looks like we're getting G, 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 G.
And those G's would be exactly right. It encompasses all of this part of it. And one of the things that I want to share about our Virginia Emergency Support Team is that so for us here at VDEM, we have again the 215 or so employees, and we all have what we call a blue sky job and a gray sky job. And so our gray sky job is what role are we doing for the Virginia Emergency Support Team. So uh, luckily for me, in our communications kind of piece, public information side of things, my role is exactly the same. I still do public information. We're providing out safety information, those types of things to the community and to the news media, social media, all of that. So we're doing that our regular jobs enough. But we have employees that we may be in that may be in our training division that during a disaster we're not necessarily doing training classes and things during that. So they transition. They may work in our planning unit. They may work in our recovery unit. Those types of things. But all of our employees are trained in both of those areas, along with several other state agencies, nonprofit organizations, our private partners, and our federal partners. And what we do,
Jason, just so you
yeah,
know, we're about 10 minutes to 11.
10 minutes
So
to 11. Okay,
just to
that's
give you a
perfect.
time check.
Oh, that's perfect because I can wrap it up in that time. I got a few slides and that's it. So our emergency support team, we bring all of those resources together during our emergency operations center. And you see a few pictures here of people that have come together during an event, disaster, to be able to help out. But what we do is we coordinate all of that support, whether it's a planned event. So we'll have a small group of folks for things like the governor's inauguration that happens. We'll have a small group of these groups coming together in case something happens, help coordinate and resources, and during those disasters. All right, we'll skip that question, and then we'll do talk about training and exercise. So we do have a full training, exercise, and education division that not only provides training for our staff, but we provide training courses in this all hazards emergency management throughout the Commonwealth to local governments, to hazmat teams, search and rescue teams, all of those types of things. And we also help. Our local governments and other state agencies conduct these exercises. As I mentioned, we can do state tabletop exercises, which is basically where you sit around with a group of folks that are going to be involved, talk about an incident, what's going to happen. This is what our plan says. This is how we would do it, and find out if there's any gaps in that plan. And then, as it mentions here, the audience for our training includes all of our state, local emergency management, first responders, volunteer organizations, and many of our other federal partners as well. So, a trivia question: how does VDEM interact with our legislators, whether they're our General Assembly here in Virginia or our Congress, senators, and things from the Virginia, and our local governments?
We're getting lots of E's.
Yeah, look, they're learning so much already. So yes, we do all of those things that are listed there. We provide updates to our legislators during a disaster. We do this through virtual calls like this. We'll have all of our General Assembly members and their staff and things providing them updates. We offer them technical advice on legislation when things are coming up as it's related to emergency management, and then big part of my job is sharing that preparedness resources that the elected officials can post on their website and social media. And then just because I wanted to show a picture of me here, this is our policy and communications there, and it's me doing a news interview during the COVID time. We also work very closely with the governor and his communications team to provide information, resources out there, whether it's social media, whether it's flyers, those types of things for that. And then the recovery and mitigation. And we've talked about this a little bit, so I won't delve down much into this slide. But we are really a liaison partner between federal government and those resources and state assistance to our local governments. And that's the biggest piece or the longest piece that we do following a disaster. And I believe that is my last slide. So, yes. So, questions, if anyone has any.
You've mentioned volunteer organizations on a couple of your slides.
Mhm.
What are those organizations and what are the opportunities for people like ANV members to volunteer if they want to help?
Yeah, so a couple of I'll do some of the larger ones. We have numerous. We have a large list of them, but we're talking organizations like the Red Cross. We're talking about organizations. There's one called it's called VOAD, VOAD, which are volunteers organized to assist in disaster. And so that's a group that we utilize. And then we have a lot of the faith-based groups. We have Christ in Action, the Southern Baptist Convention, the United Methodist Church, and a variety of those that have what they call like disaster response. And so they will ask them to come in to help and so those are some of the things. Now as far as like your group, a lot of local governments have what they call community emergency response teams, and they provide training. It's normally, I want to say it's like an 8-week training that's like one day a week, and you learn about how you can help in the midst of a disaster. So it may be like, how to go and safely check on neighbors following a disaster, how to work with your local first responders, and those kinds of things. And I'm pretty sure, I'm almost 100% positive that Arlington has a community emergency response team. So I would encourage you to maybe Google that, check on their website, something like that, if that interests any of your members.
Yeah, we do have a CERT. I've been a
Yep.
member for several years,
Oh,
and
great.
there are a couple of other ANV members that are CERTs.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great. That's great. They're great, great groups to be involved in.
Next question, has newer technology like drones and AI enhanced your ability to respond to disasters?
Yeah, so one of the things with drones, we utilize our communications, not communications on my side, but like physical communications, radio, that kind of stuff. Um, they are actually using drones a lot now in the midst of some of these disasters. We use them heavily during Hurricane Helene, and looking as because it was a very mountainous, rural area to really make sure that we were finding all of the spots and first responders were finding all the spots where people were in need. AI, on the other hand, we're still very loosely getting involved in that. There's so much with AI right now from a government level that is they're worried about cyber issues and security issues and those types of things to being able to use that. So we have a limited ability. We have a couple of approved AI opportunities that we can utilize, and then some of them that are banned for us on the state level. But I will say, from a strategic communication standpoint, we struggle or having a struggle with that is that people posting AI type things that are showing disasters and they're trying to pass it off as, oh, look what's happening in Southwest Virginia and such like this, and us trying to vet those and see if it's accurate and things. So we're having a little bit of a hard time with some of those things right now.
I had a question. You were talking about logistics a while ago. I remember when COVID first hit, there were a lot of localities that just didn't have the right equipment, gloves, masks, etc., stockpiled or what they did have was so old it was useless. Have you guys shifted your approach to logistics to better brace for the next pandemic?
Yes, that's a great question. Yes, we did. We realized that during COVID that a lot of our local governments and things weren't prepared, and we weren't prepared at that time. And so we took those efforts to be able to do that. So we do have more of those types of things that are available. The difficult part with that is that some of this is like you said, if you stockpile it for lengthy periods of time, it becomes useless because we saw like with some of our protective gloves and things. You go to put a protective glove on that is kind of out of date per se, and you put the glove on and it basically splits as you put it on. Or if it's hand sanitizers and things like that, where those expire or begin to lose its effectiveness, types of things. But we are getting better at that, and have some of those things stockpiled in the event that this occurs again, or when this occurs again.
Jason, I wanted to ask a question. You described so many services that you have in the Virginia department. Is that the services that you've described in your department for the whole state, is that pretty uniform as far as across the country? Are the emergency departments in other states similar in terms of the services and programs and activities that you do, or does it vary from state to state?
I do think it varies from state to state, but I do think that a majority of them have very similar resources. Some may be geared more towards specific things that happen in their state,
Mhm.
but you're going to find pretty much most statewide emergency management agencies are set up very similar. What we do see, I guess, is some of the bigger differences is where they fall in the hierarchy, kind of thing. Some of them are under a public safety section, or maybe a homeland security section. Not every state is set up like we have a secretariat of public safety and homeland security. Not every state is set up that way, but within the agency, we're all pretty similar within those types of agencies.
Okay. And if I, since I do a radio show or a podcast called Aging Matters, how can I get in touch with you?
Um, you can get in touch with me. That email that's on the screen now, that is our main strategic communications email, or you can email me directly, and my email is jason.elmore with that at there, that at bdm.virginia.gov that's on the screen.
Okay, can you say that a little more slowly?
Yep.
Jason dot,
Jason.elmore.
yes.
And then you can use the on the screen, the at that's there. That's the same at for my email.
Oh, vdem.virginia.gov.
Yes, ma'am.
Cheryl, I put that information in the chat.
Oh, okay. Well, in case I lose it, I wanted to get it on my piece of paper here. But thank you, Steve. Okay. Any more questions that you can see?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jason. This was absolutely excellent. Lots of good information here. We're always wondering what's going on in terms of disasters, and now we know that you and your colleagues are hard at work. So thank
Yes,
you.
absolutely.
Thank you. This is, and as I said, I will be in touch with you because I think this would be a good Aging Matters program.
Okay,
But
great.
so it's 11:03 and we are finished for today. You may or may not have noticed that next week we're going to talk about planning your own funeral. So that will be an interesting concept with Greg Faulkner, who's the president of the Virginia Funeral Directors Association. So since this is inevitable, probably sooner or later for everybody, it'll probably be also a good program, just as what Jason did today in terms of emergency management. So So we will see you next week at 10 o'clock on Coffee and Conversation. So have a good week.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a blessed day.
Okay.